The fall of Vicksburg in July 1863 split the Confederacy along the Mississippi River. Now the Union had its eye on the most important transportation hub between the Western and Eastern campaigns, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Whoever controlled Chattanooga controlled key railroads linking the Deep South with Virginia and the Eastern Confederacy, as well as a natural gateway between Appalachia and the Deep South. Through the early autumn of 1863, the South held this vital city, 100 miles west of the Smoky Mountains. By the end of November 1863, that Confederate advantage would disappear, striking a major blow against rebel hopes. In June 1863, Union General William S. Rosecrans maneuvered Confederate General Braxton Bragg out of Middle Tennessee and forced him to retreat toward Chattanooga. President Lincoln urged Rosecrans to move quickly while Bragg was on his heels. Rosecrans threatened Chattanooga from the north while quietly moving much of his army south of the city. At the same time, Ambrose Burnside entered East Tennessee and captured Knoxville without resistance. Pressured from multiple directions, Bragg retreated into northern Georgia. Jefferson Davis reinforced Bragg with troops from Mississippi under Joseph E. Johnston and others from Virginia under James Longstreet. On September 19th, Union and Confederate patrols collided near Chickamauga Creek. Bragg hoped to turn Rosecrans' left flank and cut the Union Army off from Chattanooga. A critical moment came through confusion. A Union officer mistakenly reported a gap in the Federal line. Troops shifted to reinforce an opening that did not exist, unintentionally creating a real gap. Longstreet and his troops surged through the opening, smashing the Union center. Nearly one-third of Rosecrans' army fled toward Chattanooga, and Rosecrans himself retreated. Yet the Union Army did not collapse. General George H. Thomas rallied the remaining troops and held firm. Reinforced by Gordon Granger's divisions, Thomas resisted repeated Confederate assaults through the afternoon. His stand earned him the nickname the Rock of Chickamauga. By nightfall, however, Union survivors withdrew into Chattanooga. Bragg had won a dramatic battlefield victory, but at enormous cost. Over 18,000 Confederate casualties, nearly one-third of Bragg's men. After Chickamauga, many expected Bragg to launch an immediate assault against the trapped Union Army. Instead, shocked by his losses, he hesitated. Confederate artillery surrounded the heights above Chattanooga. Cavalry and infantry cut roads and supply lines. The rebels were helped by the natural surroundings, as mountains and rivers boxed the city in. For about 2 months, Union troops remained besieged. Soldiers survived on reduced rations. Horses starved. Rosecrans struggled to restore confidence after defeat. Reinforcements from the Army of the Potomac were sent west under Joseph Hooker's command. On September 25th, he and his troops began a journey by train of more than 1,200 miles across Union territory, crossing the Appalachians and the Ohio River twice. Not until the 20th century would such a large force move so quickly as did Hooker and his army. 11 days later, more than 20,000 soldiers arrived near Chattanooga with artillery, horses, and supplies. Lincoln then made 2 major decisions. He created the Division of the Mississippi and placed Ulysses S. Grant in command of Union forces in the West. He also removed Rosecrans and promoted Thomas to lead the Army of the Cumberland. Grant arrived in Chattanooga in October. Within days, Union engineers opened a supply route known as the Cracker Line, allowing food and ammunition to reach the city. The Confederates still held Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, which overlooked Chattanooga. Yet Bragg's army suffered from growing internal division. Several subordinates had lost confidence in his leadership. The Confederate president traveled west to settle the growing dispute. Many officers urged Jefferson Davis to replace Bragg, but no clear successor emerged, and so Bragg remained. Soon afterward, Davis dispatched Longstreet with part of the army to campaign against Knoxville. The effort failed and weakened Confederate strength around Chattanooga. Grant prepared a coordinated attack for November 23rd. Sherman would strike one Confederate flank, Hooker the other, while Thomas would threaten the center at Missionary Ridge. Sherman encountered fierce resistance. Hooker won on his end of the Confederate line, but then his attempt to support Sherman was obstructed because the rebels had burned bridges over Chattanooga Creek. To prevent Confederates from shifting reinforcements, Grant ordered Thomas to attack the first line of trenches at Missionary Ridge. Thomas sent 4 divisions, 23,000 men, across open ground toward fortified Confederate positions. The assault appeared nearly impossible, likely a Union version of Pickett's charge. Yet Union troops captured the first trenches with surprising ease. Then they continued uphill. Many shouted, "Chickamauga," as they climbed, determined to erase the memory of defeat. Confederate defenders, expecting the Union assault to halt at the lower line, struggled to reorganize. Federal troops reached the crest of Missionary Ridge and overwhelmed positions there. The Confederate army broke and retreated in disorder. After the battle, Bragg resigned his post, writing to Davis, "I fear we both erred in the conclusion for me to retain command here after the clamor raised against me." By November 25th, victory at Chattanooga was Grant's. He had now emerged as the Union's leading general. After Chattanooga, the road into the Deep South lay open.